Good morning, good morning. Hello, happy Tuesday. Hope you're all having a great day so far. I am excited that yesterday we were able to get moving birds on a screen. Of course, my wife saw the end result. And I showed it to her, and she's like, "Oh, those are birds. They look like circles to me." So she wants me to turn them into actual birds. I'm actually thinking of turning them into triangles. That might make it a little bit interesting. We have to like then rotate them appropriately, and we'll see about that. Now, let's go in and take a look at where we are with the flocking rust system or like flocking rust in general, and what we can do for it. So we go to flocking rust and we cargo run this. This is where we left off with. We have our two circles. These are the actual, these are the meshes that represent the birds for right now. And they're flying around because they have I just set it to some arbitrary velocity. What I think that I want to do now is, because we can have two of them in there, is switch away from 2, go back to 1, and I want to make it so that it avoids the edge. So when it comes near the edge, it either bounces off, or when it's near it, it changes its velocity. And probably reverses, like probably just does the entire normal, like sort of bounce, like bouncing off a wall. I want to do that. So that way it always stays in the screen. Something else that might be really good for us to do is cap our update amount. So right now it's running the update loop as fast as the computer can, which is going to be very fast on this system, but it might be a little bit slower on other systems. And so there's ways we can sort of handle that. So let's go, and it'll be easier for us to like do this now. So in our flocking rust, in our main library, in our update loop, we have these update location systems. So basically we need to run our update at a certain cadence. So what is that? This can be, I think there's a timer. Yeah, check update time. Check whether or not the desired amount of time has elapsed since the last frame. The intention is for it to be called in a while loop in your update callback. Okay, so basically we do this. We hand it the context. And then we hand it the target frames per second, which, if we take a look at this, is a U32. So if I say something like, I want you to be 60 frame, we're doing an updates to 60 frames per second. Like, can we get our updates running at 16.66 milliseconds each? Perfectly reasonable to expect. Especially for this. If we start to see weirdness, then we can definitely update that. So we can do while, if that's true. And then we'll throw our update systems in here. At the end, we run okay. So this is great. Now, a problem that I foresee with this is I don't want a magic number like this down here. I want to be able to like set this up in it can be in our struct here, or maybe we can have this in some kind of to store it in the world, which would then reduce the amount of stuff that I have to store just straight up in this state. So there's in specs, I don't know about hex, but specs has this idea. Specs has this idea of resources. Let's see, there's components. What else do we have? They call it resources. Systems. I think it would be in the world, probably. There's also a book, and I wonder if it's going to be referenced here. Let's go to the repository because it might actually have the information. Yeah, here it is. Link to the book. So then, yeah, here it is, resources. So in resources, it'd be something like the duration between frames. Okay. Well, GGEZ will actually give that to us. So I don't think we need to store that necessarily, although we could. What we definitely do want to store, and these are not resources that are part of entities, but rather just like general resources that are just one of them, and then maybe multiple things could read. So what would be a resource here? We would have our mesh could be a resource. So like the bird mesh could be a resource. And then at the same time, our target FPS could be a resource. So I would expect to be able to do something like down here, do world dot add resource, and then some kind of resource for that. Now, if we come back to our BP ECS, we have components that's going to be this entire fun thing, like it's an enum. I'm thinking we can do the exact same thing for the resources. And I guess it's just going to be dependent, like right now we foresee meshes being added in, and we foresee what else? Like then U32. Marduk, hello. Marduk, your name is familiar. I don't know if you been here before? If you haven't been here before, then I've seen you on somebody else's stream. What am I building? So I am building an ECS library from scratch for myself. Now, it's not a very good ECS library, but it is something interesting. Hello, Shershock. Where is Kitty? That's a good question. Where is Kitty? I heard Kitty, but that was a little while ago. I don't think he followed me downstairs. Or if he did, I think he went back upstairs. So when Kitty comes back, we'll turn on the Kitty cam. And I tested, it actually works today. So that's good. Okay, so if you don't know what an ECS system is, an ECS system is a way of storing basically data for a simulation or a game. I've actually heard that there's some people using it for their startup businesses as their state management system. It's an architecture for like just the data and game design. So in this case, I have a hash map, and I guess I can't remember. Are you familiar? Well, if you've been here for a while, just following, then you know hash maps. I basically have the components in array in vectors and hash maps. So I can say all the locations are together, all of the velocities are together, all of the whatever are together. So what's next would be some kind of a resource system. And I'm actually really curious because could I use generics with this? Because if I only need one of them, then that would be a lot easier. ECS is very cache friendly. Yes, and I think I'm doing it actually in a really cache friendly way because by using enums, while it may limit me significantly, because there's no generics and no runtime sort of like checking, it's gonna be super fast to run. And it's going to be optimized, like the compiler can optimize all of it. It knows exactly what's going to happen, which I think is pretty cool. The negative is compile, like, you know, it's less flexible, but this isn't a library that's really expected to run with anybody's game, but really my own, and also to like learn how some of these work. So let's say I want to, if I want to do something with resources, I want to store a whole bunch of resources. The problem, I don't know if I could store that in a hash map, because hash maps can only store one thing, like one type. They could be stored in like a tuple, but then getting that out could be a little bit not fun, and that's not growable. Vectors don't really help here. I could box it, store it on the heap, but again, it's the same problem. Like, where do I throw the box? The box has to have a type inside of that it cares about. So I guess, like, what are my arbitrary types for like storing things? And it sounds to me like maybe I need to do the same thing. I can do a hash map with the label of the thing followed by an enum of what I'm storing, of the storage data, which to me makes sense. So we have components here. I want to maybe do another folder, and we're gonna do storage data. It's like data to store, so I'm not really sure. It's like it's not a component, it's just something. So storage data. And then here we'll do a mod.rs. Access is denied. What? Storage. I just got into the habit a long time ago of putting snake case in folder names, which works, I guess, really well in Linux stuff, but not in Windows. Let's try storage data. Oh, wait, I put RS. You're right. I shouldn't have done that. Rename. Yeah, there we go. Okay, sure, make a change. Then mod RS. There we go, that was our problem. Thank you, SureShock. I misread what the error message was. Okay, so let's say I have a pub enum storage, like I guess I don't want this storage. I want this to be like a resource. Like if I follow the same component, okay, let's make this resources. Now, did you work? Oh, look at that. Rust Analyzer making changes here too. Nice. Okay, so if I have resources, now the first thing that we care about here is our, what is it called? we're gonna our target FPS, and this is a an F64 number. So how would I represent that? Because I need to give it like a type, because it's being like a tuple type that stores that thing. I think we can make it just be a number F6 F no not F64, a U32. I mean, I could do that. What if I just do U32? And then this becomes a U32 that it stores like that. So that could work. The other thing that we know that we need to store here is a mesh. So we need to pull in GGEZ for this. Okay, so it added 051. I'm not completely, I didn't see REST Analyzer update, so I'm not sure it's gonna find this. But if I add a GGEZ mesh, and this becomes a mesh, yeah, you're not gonna find it. So let's do restart you. Okay. There you go. Import you. Okay, so these are the two things we can start with right now. I know it should have detected new crates. What I've noticed is that it only detects the new crates if I have the cargo.toml file open and I'm like manually adding in and I hit save. I think REST Analyzer is looking for the file changing when it's open. But when I use the cargo add, it does all of that stuff behind the scenes. I don't think that that REST Analyzer is aware of those type of changes. Which kind of makes sense, I suppose. I think, I don't know. But okay, so if we have this, we have these two different resources that can be added in here. Now we need the ability to store them away. So in the world, so our world is going to store the data, and we're also going to have to store like a resource in some way. Now, how do I want to do this? I'm thinking a Hashmap with the name. Yeah, Hashmap with the name and the well, resource. Which should probably be in here then. Let's see. Gabriel, hope I pronounced your name correctly. Hello. What is mutable reference? Sorry, you're new. Oh, don't worry at all. So we see mutable reference right here. So in Rust, if we just like, it doesn't matter where, if I just say, okay, I have a variable, or in this case, an argument or a parameter coming in for a function, and its name is self. This is immutable and owned by default. I can pass things by reference, and so that's this symbol. So now I have a reference to self coming in, and then I can tell it that it's immutable, meaning I can change it with the mute. So this would be, I have a mutable reference to self. And Rust is very explicit like that. I have to actually state that. It's not like JavaScript, which is like, oh, you have a mutable reference, everything's mutable, and you also have a mutable reference, you just don't know it, unless you're aware of what's going on behind the scenes. So that's one nice thing about Rust. It also can like cause problems if you're like, oh, I need you to be mutable, and I forgot to, and now like everything is yelling at you, and Rust, the compiler is just trying to gently tell you, yeah, go back and make changes. Okay. You'll notice I don't have to say like mute like this for self, because I have it coming in here. Therefore, and I have it like returning, the return is a mutable reference to self. It's like, hey, you're just coming in as a mutable reference to self. Therefore, if I return self, that's what this type is. So it makes sense. Okay, so I need some kind of resource. You know, that probably makes sense to store in here. To have like resources. We have our enum. It would be maybe really nice to have like a struct, like restore storage. It's like this could be like the resources data itself, and this could be the resources. That might make sense here. And inside of here, what I really care about is having a hash map. So we can just call the resources. We can just have this be like the data, and it's going to be a hash map. And then I have to give it the type that's in here. So I'm thinking string for the key, and then for the data, it's going to be a resources data. And that's it. So we can create a new one. No, we could import resources. No, resources, thank you. Pub function new. Return a new self. Self. Okay, so data is a new hash map. New like that. Okay. Now you're just yelling at me. Okay, I should add a default. I think because it's just a hash map, I should be able to derive default. Yeah, okay, so it likes that. You are upset because the field is never read. Okay, so that's not a problem. We'll get to that soon. So then this resources, I want to now be here. So we're gonna have a pub resource. I don't know if it needs to be pub. Let's just not do it as public, and then we'll make it public if we need to. So resources, and you're a type resources. Okay, like that. So when we create a new one here, we have data, and we have to create the new resources equals resources new, and we throw in resources. Okay, so that makes you happy. So now you're just yelling at us that we've never read this. Okay. Which now we need to be able to add a resource in. So storing a resource, like that's something that hash maps do pretty well. We're gonna want some kind of like pub function insert here. We're gonna take a mutable reference to self. So in Rust, if you're new to Rust, Rust doesn't have this idea of like classes. It doesn't have the idea of like this. Self is the closest we can get to it, but instead of just being something that exists for all of our structs, it's passed in to us as a parameter, and we can choose, like, you know, are we taking ownership of it? Do we like, is it a mutable reference? Is it an immutable reference? We get that choice. So this is the equivalent to this. Using self, I can get to data. And I want it to be mutable in reference so that I can mutate this and insert into data. And then the other thing is I want the name of it. So the name of the resource, which is going to be a stir, so a reference to a string, kind of, and an actual resources data. Oh, right. I need to give it the name of it first. So this will be the resource, which is a resources data. And I'm not sure if we need to return anything yet, but it might be a good idea. I don't know. We'll see. I have an option to like change this pretty easily. So inserting into a hash map is pretty simple. We're going to do self.data.insert. We have to give it the key, so that's going to be the name, and then we have to convert that to a full string, so that's the to owned, and then the value is going to be the resource, like that. And there we go. Now this will overwrite anything that was in here before. I don't know if we need a handle for this because we'll be able to get this out using the name. So if we do this, back to our mod world, we have here, insert a, I guess like these are static. Are they static? Like a single resource into the world to be read later. I don't know, like that feels like that comment isn't really helpful because the code is going to actually just say what it is. Also, well, hello there. Zilby came by. Are you in play mode or are you in... Nope, you're in play mode. I can't pet him necessarily, but we can look at him. I'll keep the camera there. And try not to run over his table. Tail. All right. Okay, so public function, I want to insert resource. This is also going to be immutable self. We're going to get the resource name. So it's the name, which is going to be a string slice essentially. And the resource in question, which is a resource data. And we're not going to return anything. We're just going to take this and self dot didn't I add this in? I thought I added this in. I'll put it in data. Does it make sense to be in data? I don't think so. Kind of want data just to be its own thing. I put it in the wrong thing. There. I don't want you in there. I want you in there. So we have resources, resource, that. Okay, so we have that. Now I can add this in. So self.resources dot insert, pass the name, pass the resource, and we're done. So then this will allow us to add those in. Oh, did you go away? You went away. I should keep some like some Zilby toys down here. Then like the wand. I have like the fishing line type toy where I can like wave it around and he'll go after it. That might be a fun toy to have on hand, so I can play with him when he's in play mode, and not just like ruin my hands, because play mode and petting do not go together with cats. Okay, so I can insert these now. Let's go back to our main library, which is here. And we want to, so we have our world. I want to now insert resources. Is the spawn entity function working? I don't see how it works with component. Okay, yes, it is working here. So I actually, this is how it's working. We have our world, so we take that, we run spawn entity. That actually returns a mutable reference to the world itself, I think. Yeah, okay, so it returns a mutable reference to itself. Come on, mouse. And then I can run with component and then hand it each of the components that I want, and then it goes in. So I'm using chaining to add these in here. So basically, like the types, I have the world, which is this type world. I then call spawn entity. I do this, then I can do with component. Okay, this bird has a location, and this is the data for that location. I then have another one, so another component. It also has a velocity, and there we go. So what's the benefit of spawn entity? I wanted to have it make sense from this point of view, and I couldn't figure out like the naming right. So like I like the entire like you can almost like read what's happening here. Okay, world, spawn entity, and then with component. It sort of like makes a little bit sense when reading it from the usability perspective. Now inside of here, it maybe doesn't make quite as much sense. But here it makes it really like it makes a lot of sense of what's going on here. Oh no problem whatsoever. I enjoy the that's why I put the education tag on. I'm very happy to interrupt myself constantly to explain things. Hello, stacking. Okay, so we want to add in the resource here. So let's do a world dot insert resource. The name of this is going to be our update FPS. And then the resource itself is going to be a resources data. Oh, come on. Resources data. I want a U32, and we're going to throw a 60 into here. What's this strange language? Is it Python? I mean, You don't recognize it as Python? I'm following like the really negative way of throwing in semicolons. Like that's not necessarily at all, but like, you know, semicolons are good. So let's bring semicolons to Python. Okay, so if I do that, then we now need to be able to read them. I need to be able to get the resource out. So let's come back into here. So pub function. We need to be able to get like get a resource. I don't need it to be like mutable yet. In this case, it's just read only is fine. And it can be a reference to it. I don't need to like take ownership of it. So we're gonna take a reference to self, not a mutable reference. And we're gonna look for the name. And we're gonna return an option. So we don't know if we're gonna find it. Rust doesn't have the idea of null or not. So we use options, which can feel very similar to like using null, but it's there's a subtle difference in that the compiler can force error check, like null check handling, and it knows exactly when a null could possibly happen. So it's again, Rust is all about being explicitly, like very explicit with programming, which like I've seen people like get turned off by Rust simply because of how explicit Rust is. Python already has semicolons. Wait, really? Now I haven't like delved too deeply into Python, just enough to like do some like basic scripting and other things like for my sysadmin jobs way back in the day. And I never really got into Python 3, so maybe 3 has it. But I thought the entire idea was that it was no semicolons and spacing matters. Chulugomo, beginner question. Why don't you turn default on resources new? Oh, I could just do this. I could do self default. No reason. Yeah, it actually makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so what do I want to return in here? Oh, Python has had semicolons for statement separation for years. Well, I haven't been a sysadmin for years, so that makes sense there. Okay, so it's gonna be none, or I'm gonna have a resources data. Like we're gonna get this out, but I'm not gonna take ownership of the resources data. I'm gonna return a reference to the resources data, so it exists. It's gonna stay inside of here. And resources is going to live in the world, and the world is going to live in the game. So it like the compiler should know that it's not going to die. So doing this, we're going to say a self dot get self dot data dot get, pass it in the name. It's going to return this option. So it's pretty simple here. We're going to get the resource data out. And we can see, yeah, it's going to get an option of the value. I need, because this is wrapped in world. Don't need to create you. You come back to the mod for world, and we need to now get a resource. So get resource, take a self, take a name, and we're going to take option of a resources data. Okay, so that gets passed through. At this point in time, we can go back to our library. We want to come to our update. And I want to get that out. So we're gonna do, we could do if let sum, but I'm thinking that it might make sense for us to do something else here. Well, hello. You wanna come up here? Or just hang by my feet? Or get distracted by something else? What mood are you in? Play mode still. Okay. And now you're between your feet, so I can't scoot forward again. All right. Let's try a new camera position. That's two. Move the camera here. Cat cam. There you go. Okay, so I want to get this out. So we're gonna say let target FPS is equal to self dot world dot get resource. We know the name of the resource here. It's this update FPS. I actually kind of like the idea of now making this target FPS, just to make it consistent. Like that. Now we can see that my type is option resources data. There's a couple different ways for me to sort of handle this. What I can do is a dot, and I want to get an unwrap or that allows me to pass in like what is the default for this if it fails. So let's say I just say like, hey, unwrap or 1. So it has to be a resource data. Resource data U32 like 1. This we'll be able to see if this is working really quickly. So you become a target FPS now at this point in time. Target FPS. I have to extract out the data. That's fun. Let's see, how do I get the data out of this? I think we can do an if let from here, which to me makes sense. So we can do an if let target FPS, if let resources data U32, and then from this it's going to be the actual thing. So this is going to be the target FPS is equal to self.world, so we get that, and then this happens inside of here. So now we have target FPS available here, and we throw you in here. So I've successfully extracted that out. Now, something that I could do instead is I could make this a result instead of an option, so that it just fails, like it just dies. Then I don't have to do this entire block here. I'm doing this unwrap or, which is giving me a default. So if it can't find the target FPS because I misspelled it or something, then I don't get anything. But if I misspell it, I should really just like not get anything at all. That's sort of like what I'm thinking. But if I'm dynamically adding in resources and extracting them, then I might run into other types of problems. So let's now if we have like a one update So here, I'm gonna just name this 1. It's gonna yell at me because I'm not using this variable, but whatever. If I... What are you yelling at me about here? You need to be a reference. Okay, so you're happy again. Marine library, unwrap or, okay, so expected. Oh, interesting. Okay, so expected just 1 of these. Yeah, I think I should just unwrap. So like get resource. That works. What are you upset about? Mismatch types expected, an option, found enum. Resources data, found enum. Oh, did I not get an option out of this? Hold on, let me try this again. Let's just start with target FPS is equal to self.world dot get resource with the name of target FPS. Yeah, so we see that this is an option. I could unwrap it. That gives, okay, that's, we needed to like unwrap it here. So potentially giving it a result might be better for us because I could like essentially question mark it, or it becomes like an okay, or if I have this unwrap, this is like the unwrap is a panic essentially. It's saying crash the program if we don't actually find this resource, which might be okay for what we're doing, but best practices in Rust is to try to minimize that as much as possible. That being said, it's also okay to like use unwraps and then like figure out ways of like not doing them later. So if I do this, okay, now we have this resources data. If I want to get this out, to extract the extract this data out of here, I wonder if I could like get just get data, like have a method on resources data. Or I wonder if I could do something else. We can do the if let entire thing. That's another option. I don't think like you can do like another unwrap on here because it's just the full data. So if I come back to resources, let's say I do something like pub function get data. Now I can't have it like return different data based upon the type. That's going to be like a problem. So if I want it to return, oh, it's not here. It is here. Oh no, it would be this. I can import resource data and I can have like extract out this U32. So what we can do an if let sum. It's not a sum. If let resources data U32 equals to this, and then we can make like a let target FPS is equal to a if let resources data U32 is just like the FPS, or FPS. So that gives us this U32. And then I'm going to return the target FPS. Then I have to have an else, like if that didn't exist, then return like 1. That's our default. Okay, so then now I have this target FPS and I could store it in here. No, not there. Oh, I deleted the other lines. That's why. Okay, so then I want a while timer, check update time, context, the target FPS. Throw you in there. Okay. There we go. You're a U32. Oh, you need to be like a reference to a U32. I can clone this to make it like a real U32. Cloning numbers like this is not very hard. Using clone on a copy type. Oh, try just dereferencing it. Okay, that's fine. We can just dereference here. That gives me the actual data that dereferences to be a real U32, and this is a real U32, and it needed a real U32. Okay, perfect. Then and I wonder if I can write like helper functions for like extracting out. That would make this a little bit easier to look at. Maybe. Now everything should look fine when I run this. Let's actually try that. We're gonna come back to, where is it? Blocking Rust. Go run. Nothing should really change here from the last time we ran this. I guess the speed might change because it's no longer running the update loop as fast as possible. Now it's running at 60 frames per second update loop. So there we go. Now, if I changed flocking Rust. Oh, that's great. Now let's say I change this resource name to like this. Now it's not going to get it out. Oh, but I unwrap. So this is going to crash. So this should crash it. There we go. So we got a crash because I ran unwrap on a none value. So that's fun. That's what happens when I don't find the thing. Interesting enough here, once I get this target FPS out of here, it's, I guess like it could be the wrong type that I throw in. Okay, that's what it could be. If I somehow threw in the wrong type. So if I did, what would it be? It would be odd resources. We have this GGEZ mesh. Imagine if I, instead of throwing in this U32, if I threw in a GGEZ mesh, and then I threw in the bird mesh. I think it implements clone and copy. No, it does not. Can I clone it? Yeah, I can explicitly clone it. Okay, so if we do that, now it should run at 1 frame per second because I stupidly put the wrong type is. Wouldn't it be nicer to use sum in the if let instead of the unwrap? Yeah, it might. I would need like double here, and so that's where I was thinking, you know, having a result might be better. Like, so imagine if I get resource, I want target FPS. Instead of an option, it returns a result with the data. I don't know if I can do that. We can see that we do this here. I don't know if I can do that without like some kind of default setup for it too. Or I suppose it could be a sum, and then it extracts the data out separately. But there's like two levels of complexity here. There's getting the data out of the hash map, and then there's getting the data out of our type. All still be left. See, I agree. It would be nice to use some. I can't use some here. I could use some here, like another if-let sum. Now, it might be interesting. What if I in here did like I could import resources data. So just like structs, I can write functions for this enum that run on here. So we can do a pub function like extract. So like instead of unwrap, like extract. This takes in a reference to self. And we are going to return. And so this is where it gets interesting. What am I going to return? I would want to return like one of these things, right? Maybe I can do this as like extract U32. Like, and then this is just going to be a U32 that gets extracted here. I could make it an option where it crashes. It might make sense to make this a result where I can say like, you know what, you're a result of some kind of the U32 and then some kind of error here. I don't have a custom error yet, although I think it would be really good for us to have it. I could also give it the default. Imagine if I did like extract U32 or something like that. And then we have a default that's going to be a I mean, I could have the default in here. So we could just do or default. So that makes this then this is going to be U32 guaranteed. We're U32. Then what I want to do is I want to return if let resources data U32. This is going to be like whatever the data is inside of here. So we can just like the data equals self. And then we're going to return the data. This should be, now it's U32, so this should probably just be the U32 that we're getting out. So we're going to turn that. Else, return, 1. There we go. So extract U32 or a default. So then we can come back to here. Oh, hello. Still in play mode. I need to trim your nails. been like a couple weeks since I trimmed his nails, and if I don't do that, it's so easy for him to accidentally scratch us just by existing. Nope. Okay, here. There's a ball. There's a ball. Also, you're wrapped around my... Okay. How about you go in there? Oh, that's too close. I can't get a good image of him from down there. He's in a box now, though. Okay, so now we come back to our library, and let's try doing this a little bit differently. Now we're going to say let target FPS equals self.world. So this is going to be interesting. There's no way for us to run this. Well, is there? There is, because we can get resources data and then we can extract. So we get the resources data at this point. So okay, so we have, this gives us the resources data. So we unwrap, and then we can get extract U32 or default. And there we go. Now we have our U32. So in the world, I can update the get to do this unwrap for us, which does have a side effect of crashing, which would be unfortunate. Well, yeah, that's sort of like what I was initially thinking. The problem is that this option is really hard to have a default. Oh, I have it too low. No more cat on my lap, so. The problem is like there's two levels of unwrapping going on here. There's the first one of I'm grabbing the grabbing like, was there even a resources data to get? And the second one is now get the data out of resources data. So what we could do is come back to here. Let's do extract U32. Let's make this an option like that with a U32. Then what we can do is if let resources data U32, so we get this out, we're going to return a sum with this data in it. Otherwise, we return a none. So this works also. We'll head back to here. And so now we'll do another unwrap. Okay, what are you? Then we get a extract U32, do an unwrap or, then we'll say like 1. And that gets us this here. Yeah, I am getting that FPS each frame. It shouldn't change. In reality, this should probably be just like something like a yeah, it shouldn't change. I can use it to slow the entire world down though. So I can do something where I like hold spacebar and like it changes the update, and that actually just like slows the simulation down. So that's actually a really cool thing that I could do with this, maybe. So we'll see. So if I do this now, do I want to like extract this into its own function for like, okay, so we have world get resource. That makes sense. Should the I really hate that this would be an option here with this unwrap. This unwrap sucks. And it's gonna be really hard to have like a resource data. Like I could have another unwrap or that doesn't really, we could do another unwrap or, but now we're gonna have a like, okay, it needs to be a reference to a resources data. Like we need to do a reference to a resources data. U32 like 5. This also works. It's kind of ugly. It's kind of ugly. It would be great if in the world I could have like in the get and it returns maybe a result. Cat code, yeah, I know, exactly. Ooh, and cat is, and put the camera in the original place again. I think I'll leave this right now and we'll get back to it. Get back to it later. Let's make sure that this still works. That's not the right speed. So what did I do wrong? Oh, I still have this as a bird mesh here. You need to be a U32 and we're doing 60 frames per second. So there's our birds moving, and I can dynamically change that FPS to sort of like slow things down if I want to do that, or speed them up. It'll be interesting, as long as the computer can handle it. Okay, so that's insert resource for there. It would be really nice to also insert the bird mesh, so I can extract that inside of the system. For this as well. So let's also do that. So I'm gonna stop storing the bird mesh here. We're just gonna store the world. We could even do the background color as a resource as well. And so then it's just the world being stored in here. So we're gonna do world.insert resource. The name is gonna be the bird mesh. And the resource is going to be the bird mesh. No, you're not that. You are resource data. Bird mesh. There you go. And you don't exist in here anymore. So that makes you happy. But down here, we're passing in the bird mesh. So I no longer need to pass this in. This is the nice thing about this. All I need to do is pass in a reference to the world now. And now in the drawbird system, we don't take in this mesh. You care about, you care about this mesh. We're gonna get you out. So let's do that. So let's grab the bird mesh right here. Now I don't necessarily have like a default mesh to use, and I don't want to have to load one up. So I think we'll just do the unwrap and crash if it doesn't exist. So I'm gonna do let bird mesh is equal to world dot get resource bird mesh. Okay, so we're gonna unwrap. That gives us the resources data, and so now we need to come back into here and have hub function extract GGEZ mesh. Okay, so this is gonna be an option with a mesh inside. But specifically, this is gonna be a reference to a mesh now because it's no longer just a normal type. You're definitely on the right track. It's very ECS-y, just passing around a world. Yeah, so that's sort of like what I'm going for. It may like look really weird that like I'm constantly grabbing from it, but ECSs aren't always the fastest thing, but they're supposed to make it easier architecturally to sort of like update and be pretty dang fast at runtime for the stuff that needs to be really fast at runtime. Okay, so now we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to do a if let resources data. You know what? Can I just do self here like that? Self. Yeah, I can. Okay, so then it's the GGEZ mesh. This is the mesh in here equal to self. I want to return a sum with a mesh. Else return a none. Okay, so this should make it pretty nice. Now we're back into the draw bird system. So we have this unwrap, and then we're going to do a extract GGEZ mesh dot unwrap. Now we have this bird mesh here. I guess we could just call this mesh. And what are you yelling at me about? Cannot borrow world as mutable because it's also borrowed as immutable. Okay, so back to this problem is we've grabbed this mesh out of here. I would love not to have to clone it. And if I pull you in, like if I pull you in here, that's going to be even worse. What did I do? Like if I put you in here, you'd be even more upset. Yeah, no matter what, something is upset because world is being borrowed multiple times. I wonder if we can throw, well, okay, world needs to be mutable, so I can't throw it into a RC because you can't get mutable stuff out of an RC unless I threw like in a cell as well, like an RC cell. I can throw it into an arc. That would work. I could clone this. That gives me this mesh, and so I'm completely done out of here. I'm completely done with world by the time this happens. Now it's saying, hey, you're fine. I wonder if I didn't do the clone and if I put this in a block, so the block returned it, would you be more happy? No, it's the same problem because the world is being borrowed as mutable, immutable, and mutable. So that's a problem. So there's an issue. How do I deal with this? This is the borrow system, the borrow checker of Rust trying to protect me from basically reading things that, like reading things twice. Because it's worried, the compiler's worried, what if I'm in here mutating mutating the world. Now I have this query. So you're getting like all this mutable reference, so I could update it so it's immutable for the queries. That might be a good way to handle this. Like if I just pass in a reference to world. Now query is returning a mutable reference to whatever it's getting, because it needs to do this entire get mute thing because it's in a cell. So it needs to be mute. So that's a problem. So yeah, I'm not sure the best way to deal with this without doing an arc. Because I can store the world in an arc. The RC part of arc is reference counting, and I can't remember what the A stands for, but it's really meant for like passing between frames. Sorry, frames. It's really meant for passing between threads. And this is all single threaded. Like this entire simulation is single threaded. Atomic reference count. Got it. Thank you. And now that allows it to basically have a reference count of like how many things are reading it. You can only read it one at a time. And so it will block until the other thing stops reading it if you're trying to get like a mutable and an immutable at the same time. So it would work, but it's not like, it adds complexity in. I wonder if I can get around it by storing the world as an arc. Like, what would happen if I come back to here and I say, hey, this world is an arc? Oh, where? Let's go take a look at here. Standard sync arc. So yeah, it's a thread saved reference counting pointer. Oh, it would have to be an arc with a mutex in it. Could I do an RC with a mutex? So there's also mutex. So we could do arc and mutex in together. In fact, they're often used together. You also have the same problem. Arc will only allow you to share immutably among multiple threads and tasks. The mutex, though, is there a single threaded version of mutex? Could I put a mutex in an RC? Ref cell is a single threaded version. Okay, so let's try this. In our world here, we could store this as an RC. Okay, I have to go tell it to get it because it doesn't know how to find it. This is going to use standard RC. RC, there it goes. So it stands for reference counting. So RC, and then inside of that, we're going to do a ref cell. And inside of that, we're going to do a world. Okay, cool. Thank you, Epic Blarg. Let's then come down into here. So an RC ref cell world. When we create the world, we want you to be now an RC new. And so that a ref cell new. And then we're going to throw the world into here. So now the world is owned by this RC and ref cell. Now I can clone the world now because RC allows me to clone it as many times, but the data is going to be the same. So it's basically overwriting clone from where we understand it to be something else. I now have like lots of different versions of world, but it's still one world. Okay, so now these are all going to be really upset because it's not the same type anymore. So like world is now this RC ref cell. So we have to, we can't do get resource because it's an RC. And it will actually dereference into ref cell. So I need to get mute from the ref cell and then I can get the resource. So that should be fine there. Okay, so update systems location. Okay, so the world, you're no longer this mutable reference to world. I can actually clone this. So what are you? You're going to be an RC. Come on, use standard RC. So you're going to be an RC. Ref cell. And instead of here, a world. I can't remember. Do I do this as the world? Or is it a reference? Because I think I can clone the world coming in now. So now I could clone you. Okay, so expected, centered, found, immutable reference. So basically I could do that. So I clone the world. So you're fine here now. World needs to be get mute, and then it should be fine. Get mute, and it should be fine. Okay, everything's happy here now. All right, back to the main library. Now down to our draw bird system. So you need to be the exact same thing. Our world, use standard, RC. Our world is going to be a RC. Ref cell world, like that. And so we're going to take this world and does it implement copy on its own? I think it might. Copy and clone. It might not. Where are my errors? Drop birds, you have an error. Right, I can't do get resources here. We have to get mute here to get extract it from the ref cell. And then we're happy here. Okay, if let subcomponent world.query, so we have to do another get mute. If I have to clone the world multiple times, I can. So what are you yelling at me about? Cannot borrow data in RC as mutable. Trait deref mute is required. Okay, so I don't want you to be mutable. I want you to get the ref. Oh, can I do like a? I can do like a deref. That gives me this. Okay, so we want to borrow mute instead of get mute. Okay, let's do borrow mute. Temporary value dropped while borrowed. Consider a let binding. And I don't even care about it being mute. Like, I just need to borrow it to get it out. Because like in this case, I want it to be like, I don't care what it is. I'm just getting a reference to a mesh. Let's see. So that gives me ref mute world. Do I have to deref it from here? Okay, so I could borrow it too. Yeah. Do I have to clone the world before I do that? No. You still need an initial let binding to store the ref cell's guard as the compiler suggests. Oh. How do I do that? Kind of sucks. So we have this borrow, which gives me the ref. Let's try doing this down here. So we're gonna do let mesh is equal to. Then I think I need to do like an if let mute. I'm not sure what it is. I don't think it's a sum. It's a borrow mute, something like that, or a ref cell mute. Is there a link to the documentation with this? No, there's no link to the full documentation. Let's go to ref cell. Unless you use a try version here. Okay, so here's this borrow. So immediately borrows the wrapped value. The borrow lasts until the returned ref exit scope. Multiple immutable borrows can be taken out at the same time. Okay, so perfect. So c.borrow, c.borrow. So I can do that. C equals ref cell. So we create a new ref cell and we can borrow it. Do I need to do this in multiple lines then? Okay, so we do. So I want to borrow the world out of here. So like I can shadow the world. Borrowed world equals world dot borrow. It's like that. So that's our ref world. It's a borrowed 5. Okay. Then I want to get the resource in that. So let mesh is equal to borrowed world dot get resource third mesh, like that. Unwrap extract GGEZ match dot unwrap. Does that make you happy? Oh, it does. Okay. I have 5 errors. Okay. So cannot borrow data. Okay, so same problem there. So this is the borrowed world, and in this case, and I don't think, can I borrow mute twice? I need to borrow mute twice, don't I? I can't like borrow mute once to have like be the borrowed mute. And then this would be borrowed world here. Yeah, okay. So I need to do it twice. So this would just be a borrow. Then we're going to do it again. So I can shadow it now. Borrowed world. I think I can shadow it. Borrowed world is equal to a world dot borrowed mute. Like that. Then it's going to borrowed world there. No method. Okay, so then can I do like a get mute? Wait a second, you're a ref cell. That's not what I want. Borrow didn't work. Oh wait, does a ref cell also have a borrow mute? Then I need to deref it in order to get inside the ref cell. Because that's our problem there. So I need remember the ref cell enforces the regular borrow checker rules, but it does it at runtime. If you try to borrow mute and borrow at the same time, it'll panic. Okay, so what do I do here? I could clone a world. So like if I clone world, then there's two of them. So I clone one world to borrow, and then the other world I just have here. Maybe that will work. Then we can borrow mute. Problem is it thinks I have a ref cell now. If I try to run this, yeah, method not found in RC. So the problem is this is still an RC. I need to get into the RC. Can I like deref to get there? And you temporarily drop value while borrowing. I have lots of errors, but none in here. I have errors in there and errors in here. So now we have, okay, self.world. This is an update to get the target FPS. Now you're saying cannot borrow data in RC as mutable. Okay, so I need to start doing this everywhere now. It's like that borrowed world equals self.world dot the RC is a smart pointer, but the ref cell isn't. You need to borrow or borrow mute to get the ref, mute, or ref, both of which are smart pointers. Right. But I need to clone it first. Clone the world, I guess? So like we have a, okay. So that clones the RC. Then we can borrow. Then you become the borrowed world. Then you work there, and then we're gonna have the same problem here. So draw bird system. Something is not right in the land of the RC ref cell because it confuses you every time, and then you work through it slowly, you understand it, but it never gets the intuition. I'm at that point too right now. Okay, so I need to do the exact same here. So it feels weird that I'm like cloning the world, like cloned world equals world.clone. I feel like I feel that I'm not doing it right, but it's working. It's like let borrowed world equals like the clone world dot borrow mute. Then you could become the borrowed world dot query for that. You need to be mutable. Okay, so then this other one, I can't do the cloned world again, I don't think. Like I can clone it again, but like it won't let me do this. So then I need to copy this line and paste it again down here. Do like borrowed the world again. So mute borrowed world. And then you become the borrowed world again. Okay. So you're just yelling at me they don't need to do that. There's no, okay, so I have no errors. So it's working? No, okay, what happened? Already borrowed, borrow mute error. Location RS line 12. So update locations line 12. Okay, so it tried to borrow mute when it was already borrowed. You really should be thinking about RC ref cell type as the borrow checker, but in runtime, where borrow and borrow mute are references or mutable reference accesses, but rather than a compilation error, you get a panic. Well, I can try to think of it that way, but I still have trouble wrapping my head around it. About like what's actually happening in what order. So I'm trying to borrow these twice, even though I'm shadowing them, but I guess it's because okay, do I need to like I can't like clone this again here. I can't do that because then it's saying, hey, the world doesn't, you need a let binding for that. So I wonder if I like do another cloned world. That. Ah, don't do that. So that works. Now I don't need this clone because redundant clone, it will, wants me to remove that. Okay, like there's no errors, but let's see if it runs or if I'm still borrowing twice. Yeah, I am. So an update locations line 12 already borrowed. And so like, I guess I'm not wrapping my head around it right and thinking about it in the correct way. And that's why I'm saying like, oh man, the borrow checker type stuff. The clones are referencing the same underlying ref cell. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's the same ref cell. It's like, that's why I'm getting this. Now location, I don't need it to be borrowed world. I could just be borrow like that. And I only want once. Don't need to be mutable. But the query is getting mute. That's the problem. The query is, you need to drop the ref mute before taking out a ref. I need to drop the ref mute. Okay, so right here, we can do a drop borrowed world. So if we put you back to borrow mute, you mutable again. Have to run it to find out if that worked. It did not. Wait a second. No, it did not. I was like looking at this. Oh, it's a different error. No, it's not. It's the same error. So you need to drop. Take me back here. State locations. You need to drop the ref mute before taking out a ref. So here's this ref mute. Unless I need to drop like the world, but no, that would not make sense. It's like I clone the world to get a new RC, but I mean, it shouldn't matter that much. We're able to then borrow mute to get the ref mute. Then we get the velocity, the velocities by going into the borrowed world and we querying there. Then I drop the borrowed world and I create it again. So I don't know if I need this again. I probably could use the same clone. You can either have a single ref mute from a ref cell, or you can have multiple refs, but not both at the same time. I'm not trying to. I can maybe put this into a block, but I guess it's saying the ref mute exists because it's coming into here. So then I need some other way of storing the data. I guess I'm not sure. Like I need to know more about how to use ref cell and like ref mute and all that stuff, because this is not working for me. But I don't know why, and I don't understand it. So maybe if there's a tutorial, we can go through that. Otherwise, we're just going to keep on bonking our head into it. And the turnaround time on compiling with this is pretty not great. Because like, okay, I'm borrowing mute twice, unfortunately. And I don't want to. We can update it so we can borrow mute only once, but there might be things where I have to borrow mute multiple times. So I should be able, I need to be able to figure out how to do that. A single query where I can get multiple things might be a good answer, but we ran into major problems when we tried to do that too. So we'll have to like, we could, now we're cloning we can't clone the locations. The velocities, we really don't need to be mutable here. Query, okay, so what might really be important for us is to have a query that's not mutable. It's like we need to be able to have a non-mutable query, so I only am getting one thing as mutable at a time. But I don't know if I can have a ref and a ref mute. But yeah, so this isn't working for us. Like this is not dropping unless the drop isn't doing what I think that it's doing. And in that case, I would need to, yeah, I can't have a ref and a ref me at the same time, same borrow rules. So like, I don't think I can do like throw this into here. I would want to also take you to throw you in here. Then we get the velocities out, and then we do the same thing here. It's like let locations equals you. We have to do let cloned world equal to world dot clone here. Wait. Oh, okay, hold on. I'm down here. You go in there. Clone world does not live long enough. That clone world lives long enough. Why does this clone world not? So trying to drop them at the same time through blocks, but I don't think this is working because like they need to be completely separate, and I don't have a way to get them out. So I think our data structure for grabbing these is not right. So we have it working when we're not doing the RC. But when we try to RC, that doesn't work. But unfortunately, I can't stay because I have a meeting coming up in like 10 minutes. So fortunately, I have to run. Oh man, I would love to like continue to stay with this. Epic Blarg, do you have any good resources to like look through to like learn this? Do I have a Discord? I do have a Discord. I think my my bot's not working. So give me a second. Let me find invite link. Wait, just copy. Yeah, that's to mine. There it goes. There's an invite to my Discord. Oh yeah, John who does have one. I remember seeing one. It was like talk about pinning and other stuff. So we can go take a look at that too. Yeah, that might be good. That being said though, I do have to do an emergency stream shutdown. So I'm gonna switch over to the ending screen. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Epic Blarg, for the help with this. Thank you, everybody else, for stopping by and taking a look. It depends upon how I'm feeling about this like RC stuff. If I can't, well, I'll take a look at how long that video is. I'm not sure whether or not I'll stream tomorrow or I'll watch that video and sort of like learn about that, or if I will stream and like we'll learn it together. It depends upon if I have time to watch the video today, and I may or may not because I have tons of meetings for the rest of the day. So if you follow me here on Twitch or you follow me on Twitter, you'll get the notification if I go live. Also try to post to the Discord with that, through that link that I put in there. For me, what I'm gonna do. Cat's a Million, yeah, sorry about that. Unfortunately, I do have to run. So anyways, Have a great rest of the day. I'll see you all next time, be it tomorrow or the next day. Bye.